All right. Welcome, DoorGrow hackers, to the DoorGrow Show. If you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, increase revenue, help others, impact lives, and you are interested in growing your business and life, and you are open to doing things a bit differently, then you are a DoorGrow hacker. DoorGrow hackers love the opportunities, daily variety, unique challenges, and freedom that property management brings. Many in real estate think you're crazy for doing it. You think they're crazy for not, because you realize that property management is the ultimate high trust gateway to real estate deals, relationships, and residual income. At DoorGrow, we are on a mission to transform property management businesses and their owners. We want to transform the industry, eliminate the BS, build awareness, change perception, expand the market, and help the best property management entrepreneurs win. I'm your host, property management growth expert Jason Hull, the founder and CEO of DoorGrow. Now let's get into the show. And today's guest, I'm hanging out with Inaas Arabi.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yes, you sure did. Thank you.
All right. So
Yes.
Inaas, I'm excited to have you on the show. We have not yet had Propertyware on the show, and Inaas is from Propertyware.
Yes,
So
I
Inaas,
am.
tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the space of property management first, and then let's get into maybe Propertyware a bit and talk about growth.
Awesome. So I do want to first of all say that I'm a door hacker as well. So thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Oh, great.
Um, so I came in mostly from the operational background. I started a company from scratch, operated a little over, built it a little bit to over 1,700 doors, and then I sold it to a national player. Then I went to work for the second largest owner operator in the single family industry, American Homes for Rent. Worked with them for a while. I was their Midwest regional director of ops. We've done a lot of great things there. We took the company public, and then I left that and went to work for a company called Altosource, which deals with banks and REITs and does very similar thing to third-party property management or property managers, but on a different scale, mostly for the banks and the financial industry. Operated a very large portfolio over 35 states. And after that, I got recruited by RealPage to be able to become the single family vice president for them, as well as the general manager for Propertyware. Now, the reason why I think Propertyware would be a great choice for somebody like me and for a lot of operators is because you're able to take somebody like me with my experience and put them into the seats where we can make decisions that would actually help the property managers with their day-to-day lives. And that's a difference that we're trying to go after compared to some of the other systems, is that we really want to build things that would be usable, and would make an impact for people's businesses. I know we're going to talk about growth here in a little bit, but that is really the approach that we're going with Propertyware since I came in. We are building enhancements that allows people to grow in multiple different ways. They grow by adding units, which is what you talked about as far as being a door hacker. Number two, you grow by increasing your revenue by making more money per door. And then number three, you also want to grow financially by reducing expenses while keeping everything the same. So that would allow you to be able to have a much better financials or a higher NOIs for your properties if you're an owner operator. And that's really the goal. That's the approach that we're taking upon with Propertyware since I've started with them. I started with Propertyware late January of this year.
Okay.
All right.
So this is kind of new for you, the Propertyware thing.
Yes, it is. I mean, well, I mean, you can say it's new. I've been there since January, so
Yeah.
depending on how you take a look at it.
You're like halfway. You're halfway through the year.
Yeah, you're right. I'm definitely halfway through the year. Yes, yes, but
So
I'm
you're
not. I'm
so you're
not
point
new.
0.5 you're point 0.5 years at Propertyware right now.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, cool. So, I mean, that's 2 quarters, right? That's enough time to, um, right? That's enough time
Make a
to like
change.
really,
Yes,
yeah, make some
you start to
changes,
make
get
changes. Yeah,
familiar.
absolutely.
So, what was your perception of Propertyware before you came in versus now?
So I was a customer of Propertyware when I was working with Altosource. We ran, like I
Okay.
said, a very complicated and very large portfolio, a little over 10,000 units, over 35 states, and we did it through Propertyware. So
Mhm.
one thing that I always appreciated about Propertyware was the ability to customize and the ability to be able to build unique or redo the system around your uniqueness as a business model. Now, I think that also causes people to be the right word would be more afraid of the technology because there is not a very easy, systematic, streamlined way of doing things on property where you have multiple ways of doing things.
Hmm.
And it's built as such to be able to allow people the ability to customize based on their business model.
Okay.
Having that I've been working for Propertyware, I did find that to be before I found it to be a very interesting point as a customer, was very good for me. But when I moved into being in the seat of making changes, I did realize that this is an intentional thing that we're doing where we are able to keep the business and keep the platform customizable by the business model. Now, I would also say that that will make some people be very hesitant into looking into propertyware because they're afraid of how customizable the system could be, and that could also take you into a lot of what I would call rabbit holes. Meaning, like if you've got 20 ways to be able to do something, sometimes you give way too many options for some people, and that would allow you to take out the simplicity aspect of it or the easiness aspect of it. But overall, um, really the what I appreciate the most is customization. If I want to have to sum it up down to one thing.
Yeah, so the perception that I've always had about propertyware is I've noticed that a lot of the larger companies, the companies that really are focused on scale, that they tend to use propertyware. Propertyware seems to be very scalable. It seems much more of an enterprise solution than a lot of the other property management software out there. That's kind of the perception.
Right.
Um, that I've noticed, and yeah, I have lots of clients that have used Propertyware, and I noticed that usually the guys with thousands of doors are using Propertyware.
Well, we do have people from different levels of where they're at. Now, to your point, sometimes it's very difficult, and I struggle with this myself as well. It's really very difficult to be able to equate the number of units for your business to how
Hmm.
complicated of a process you're running.
I'm
We
sure.
come across some people that they may only running 200 units, but they have some of the most complex processes that I've seen, and the opposite is very true. So it's really more about how customizable are you really looking to be able to build for your business. But the one thing that I would always say, you never buy software for where you at today. You should always be buying software to where you want to be.
Correct.
It's almost like where when you're talking to trainers that they always say you don't want to be the guy or the person who's playing today. You really want to be playing to what you want yourself to look like after you win or at the winning table, and that's really where it comes into be. If you're thinking you want to grow and you want to have a system that grows with you, scales with you, that allows you to be able to do different things in many different ways, Propertyware certainly would be it. Now, I would also say you do have to be willing to take on this opportunity to be able to build things that would be customizable for you so you can get the best advantage. And
Oh, looks like you paused or cut out. And us, if you can hear me, you may need to refresh. All right. I think he's coming back in here. So the internet sometimes does this. So we'll have him back here in just a minute. But this is the feedback that I've noticed about Propertyware. If you're going, what he says is absolutely true, that if you're going to pick a property management software solution or any solution for your business, you want to pick a solution that is going to give room to grow into for whatever size you imagine, because it's not easy to switch property management software. Anybody that's done it, that switched from one to the other, because they thought the grass would be greener on the other side, usually regrets it, and it's not been so comfortable. And so, yeah, I agree. Pick software that you feel like you can live with in the long term. So we'll see if he's able to pop back in here in just a minute. So, and then we'll just edit this portion out when we put it into iTunes.
I
We're
apologize
back.
about that, Jason.
No
It's a
problem.
technical difficulty. And it's not a
That's how the
property or
internet works.
technical difficulty, it's an internet technical difficult, just so we can be
Uh,
fair. Yes.
you know what? It's happened. It happened to Billion when they came on my show.
Well, you know,
They were my first guest, so
it
it happens to the
it's
best of
certainly an
us.
internet thing. My apologies. So
So you,
I am calling you or talking to you from Atlanta, and we're having a little bit of a storm around us. So that's probably the reason why we got disconnected for a second. But anyway,
yeah.
so what you were saying is absolutely true. Is really about jumping from one system to the next is not an easy task. I do recognize that you do have to put in a lot of effort into that, but you do need to find something that would scale with you for the long term, not for where you at today. And that's the beauty about finding that system and being able to grow with it as you go. And we've seen a lot of great companies have grown with us over the years, and have done wonderful things as far as that goes.
So let's get into growth. So the topic is growth via Propertyware. So how
Yes.
does Propertyware help somebody grow, or what are we chatting about here about growth?
So this is, like I said, the approach for us since I've got into Propertyware is the fact that we're building enhancements that would allow people to grow in all of those three directions. So I'm going to give you
Okay.
specific examples because I know you like that. But number one growth, in my opinion, is adding units. And how do you add units? You help PMCs differentiate their services and do things where they can go out there and put themselves in front of the right people that are looking for their services. So, as an example, I know you guys offer wonderful websites offering, and which is great. Um, one way that we can help is we do provide our clients what we call a listing widget that they can plug in anywhere on the website. So this way, you as a website provider don't have to build it for them. It feeds all the information directly from the Propertyware property management software. So all of the vacancies, the rent price, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, pictures, and all that. It's all within the listing widget. And then we make it so customizable to the point where people are able to do some awesome things with it. And awesome things would be, for example, you can add on banners that they're specific to workflow. So, for example, you can put in a banner that says, only make an offer or only make that banner available over the weekend to make a weekend offer. So you can say,
Cool.
come take a look at my house that I have for rent, and you're going to get $100 off if you look at it between Friday and Sunday, or if you look at it between the 1st and the 15th. You can do things like, we're looking for awesome owners like yourselves. Click on this link to be able to see our offering. You could do things like um, the workflow, like once a property has an approved applicant for it, then you would automatically take it off the listing widget. So this way you don't have to do anything with that manually. And you can also do it where you can add a lot of information in the description for that property. And one thing I teach people to do, and I'm sure you'd like that, Jason, is the fact that for every listing that you put in out there for rent, at the bottom of the description for that listing, you should take a couple of lines and you should type in information about your services with the link to the website that will take people on to a full offering of those services. Because we know when people go out to look for properties, rental properties on the market, majority of them will be renters, but some of them are not necessarily renters. Some of them might be owners that they're looking to comp out their property to figure out what the other properties in the area are renting for, or they might be asset managers that
Yep.
ability to put yourself in front of those guys while they're searching for properties. And it's very unique. It doesn't cost you any extra. It's part of the listing widget that allows you to plug and play and do it as you go. So this is one example of an enhancement. It does help for the unit growth. Now there is plenty more. I don't think I have enough time to be able to share all of them because I want to talk about other items that they're important. The second element we talked about, which is adding revenue or increasing your revenue, making it where, instead of making 1,000 per door, you go up to 1,500 per door, you go up to 2,000, 3,000, whatever you feel like it's the right level that you want to go to. And how do we do that? We do that by offering ancillary products that could make sense for the property managers, but they're also integrated within the system. So this way they don't have to do anything offsite the system. And the beauty about that is you get the beauty of getting something that is offered, make some money on it without adding too much expenses on your end from an HR or employee perspective. So some examples with that would be our asset protection or our renter's insurance. I know some other software do offer that, but the reason why I mention it is because between um, between Propertyware and some of the other systems is the fact that we really want to make sure that it's fully integrated within our system. So the tenant will have a very seamless experience when they're selecting the process or selecting the product and they're going through it. And then also the PMC will have a very seamless experience. And then last but not least, if there is an owner involved, that owner will also have a very seamless experience. So as an example, with the asset protection, it's a checkbox, and then you can select whether it's paid for by the owner or paid for by the tenant. You can put in whatever extra fee that you would want to add on as a PMC as your profit margin, and then you can apply it either to a tenant ledger or to an owner ledger, depending on who's paying for it. And you do all of that very seamlessly with a couple of clicks. And you do enough of those, you start seeing a little bit of an increase of revenue in per door that you're having. Some of the other products that we're also migrating or integrating within our system would be things like utility management, which is, I think, we're one of the only system that I know of that offers something like that. So utility management in single family has not been a revenue center for a long time, but I think that is changing with all of the legalities where it's forcing either the owner or the property management company to keep a lot of utilities in their names. So you don't have any off and on for the tenants when they leave or when you have a new tenant moving in. And if you are, as a PMC, and you're going to have to manage that for the owner, we believe you do it with ease, but you should charge a fee to be able to do that. And you can apply all of that, again, either on the tenant ledger or on the owner ledger, depending on who's paying for it, and you make a little bit of money on it. So that's the examples of how do we help increase revenue for our PMCs. Then the last type of growth that I want to talk about, which is very near and dear to my heart, is the profit growth by reducing your expenses. And in my opinion, you reduce your expenses by doing automation. Now, automation, certainly I'm not suggesting that you exchange relationships or conversations with owners and tenants with technology, but what you do, if you take a look at a lot of repetitive elements that we do every day in property management, you should automate those, or you should look into making them systematic, so this way you're not spending a lot of time doing it. Specific example here. Since I came into Propertyware, we sat down and we looked at all the processes that our PMCs goes through, from renewals to leasing to signing of a lease to maintenance to all the big processes. And our goal was to be able to build or educate our PMCs on the best automated way to be able to do a process from A to Z for the best results, for the cheapest cost as far as HR, and for the highest profit margin. And I can tell you, we've gotten rave reviews from our clients when they've seen what we put together. We have what we call road shows, which is more of a events that we put out in some certain cities in the United States. And we invite our clients and prospects to come out to see us and see what we have going and what we're working on. And we've shared with them, for example, the renewal process that we built together for them. Now, the beauty about why this is important, why I talk about it, we actually talk about both sides of the spectrum here. We talk about the setup, how you can set up Propertyware for full automation, as well as the actual process of how you run it from a systematic perspective and from an operation perspective. So by the time you leave, if you have been a little bit hesitant about how do I work Propertyware to my advantage, you already know how you set it up, and you already know how to work the process itself. We've had customers where they've came back and they reported that their renewal rate was in the 60 to 70%. Now they are close in the 80%. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a client a little bit earlier today, and they quoted 79.83, which is 79.83% renewal rate from, I think it was close to like 71 or 72%. That's a huge movement. Now, why that's important for PMCs, that's a differentiator for you as well as a service. When you go talk to owners and you say, I am able to get 80% of people to renew, that speaks volume to the owners, and it allows them to see the benefit of working with you compared to working with somebody else who does not have that high of a renewal rate. So did I explain it to you well as far as all the different types of growth and how we tackle it, what kind of enhancements we use for each one of them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, all of these things make sense. And I love the idea that you're taking a look at the challenges that the property managers are facing internally when it comes to their operations to facilitate that with the software, to make
Right.
that faster, to make that more simple, versus all the manual stuff. Property managers do a lot of manual stuff.
They sure do.
And the more that you can pull into that software, the better. And a lot of times they're turning to lots of different systems to try and systemize their business outside of their accounting solution, and that can get cumbersome at times.
Yeah, and like the renewal process that we put together for full automation, we've counted a little over 20 contact steps, where if you're doing this manually, you would need about 20, a little bit over 20 steps to be able to go through the entire process. And when we're talking steps from talking to the tenants, making sure that they want to renew, then again talking to the owners, making sure you agree on pricing, making sure you come back and you talk to the tenant and you send them a lease and you follow up on the lease and you do all of that back and forth. We changed that down to the point where we're able to do the entire thing with about 6 or 7 touches. And 6 to 7 touches, in my opinion, compared to over 20, that saves you so much time and so much effort, that allows you to really concentrate on building the relationship instead of losing the time doing mundane tasks that you should be automating. And in my opinion, that's how you grow. You grow by taking all of those mundane tasks, automate them, taking those out of your way, and then concentrate on building the relationship, whether it's with owners or with tenants themselves.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, well, cool. Is there anything else that you want people to know about Propertyware? Well, I've got you here.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things that I want people to know about Propertyware, but few things comes to mind right off the bat. One, that we do stand behind all of our clients, and we do appreciate the relationships that we have with them. And we also, if you can imagine, we're taking a different approach by becoming more of our business advisors to our PMCs, not just a technology provider. A lot of times you come across a lot of great technologies, but if you don't know how to take that technology and apply it into your day-to-day operation, that technology really failed because it's not really allowing you to get what you'd want out of it. Think
Right.
about like text messaging when it came out, for example. People, if they didn't try it, they didn't perfect it, they didn't figure out what to do with it, we wouldn't have had such a great success with it today. And the same effort would be with our platform. We wanted to educate people. We want to make a business partnership with them to be able to tell them how to do it, what do they do with it, and how they can use it to be able to get best results from all the aspects that we talked about. So that's one. Number two, I also want them to know that we are property managers building stuff for property managers. We're not technologists, and we're just building things in a vacuum. We're really building it from the perspective of we know where their pain points are. We've been through it, whether it's myself or somebody on my staff. We know what your folks, the people that they're hearing us today, are going through. And because of that, my goal is to be able to build things to solve those issues for them, to solve those pain points. Now, sometimes we have to take them in steps, but at the end of the day, we are solving those pain points. So, for example, we rolled out our text messaging feature earlier this year, and for fairness sake, it was what I would call the basic features of being able to communicate back and forth via text messaging. In order for us to take that to the next level, we're also working on enhancements now that would allow us to do the multi-level, the multimedia, as well as the group texting and things like categorization for all of the text. So this way, our PMCs could take a text and apply it towards somebody specific, whether it's an owner or a tenant. They can also do group texting. They can also do multimedia, so they can send a picture, send a file, and do all of that all within one centralized communication command, if you call it that, within the system, so it's not anywhere off the system, right?
Okay.
And then last but not least, I think we've talked very greatly about growth, but what I really want people to know, your listeners, is that if you're looking for a scalable system that has a lot of potential for you, that would allow you to be able to do a lot of customization for your business based on your business needs, then you should look into Propertyware and you should evaluate it as an opportunity, as an option for you. Now, it may fit when that's fantastic, it may not, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, you should really evaluate it to figure out if it's a good fit for you or not.
So I love what you're talking about what you guys are doing internally. So one of the big questions I know a lot of my clients have, a lot of listeners have, that's
Mhm.
really hot on the tip of the tongue of most property managers nowadays is integrations. Having that
Awesome.
freedom to connect with third-party tools, vendors, different services.
Yes.
So maybe you could touch on uh, your an API and what you guys have maybe going on there, and if how you guys are kind of facilitating integrations with third parties.
Yeah, so that's such a fantastic point. I'm so glad that you actually brought that up. So Propertyware's current approach is that we are offering a two-way data exchange is an API that allows people to be able to connect to their property management software, and they can connect almost anything and everything that they would like to do. And in my view, we don't want to um, we want to provide people the opportunities to make a choice or make or take pick the right option that fits for their business model. There is a lot of great things that we offer. If it fits your business model, fits your needs, fantastic, use it. If you have something else that you'd like to use, connect it to your property management software so you don't have to double entry anything. To me, kiss of death is double entry, and kiss of death is any manual input that you put into either your staff or yourself, because somebody's going to make a mistake with that manual entry, and somebody is going to cause you havoc later, even if it's not happening today. So that's as far as the API. Now, I know on other webcasts, Jason, you did ask about things like um, um, uh, I think the place was, remind me again, was HubSpot or something like that, where you're able to connect Propertyware to everything else that it's out there as far as softwares.
Oh,
Uh,
Zapier.
Yes, Zapier. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yes. Um, we actually looked into that, and we're talking to them now about getting our platform on their side to be able to have full integrations with everything that they've done. Now, you could do
Cool.
this. You could do this yourself today. Meaning, if you have access to the API, you can take API, you can plug into whatever other software that you'd want to plug it into, whether it's CRM, whether it's an inspection product, whether it's a maintenance product, whether it's um, I mean, typically anything and everything that has got an API, you can connect it to. Now, um, the
If you're
what
nerdy enough or you pay enough money to get somebody nerdy enough to do it.
True. I mean, you do have to have a developer to be able to take a look at it.
Yeah.
This is not something that it's geared toward a property manager to be doing it themselves. That's for sure.
But that's the
Uh,
advantage of Zapier. So the
yes.
Zapier is very cool because it allows, a somewhat normal person, maybe not, you have to be a little bit nerdy, let's be honest, but it allows you to do it without having to know code. You can create connections between tools and systems. So if you guys are working on that, I'll be really excited to hear when you guys have that ready. That'll be
Yeah,
really cool.
absolutely. So, and you're definitely correct. It does need a little bit of development resources to be able to do the API, that's for sure. But remember, though, Jason, once you do it once, you've got it. Meaning,
Right. You're not paying
you don't
for it over
have
and over again.
exactly, and you don't have to go do connection every day. Meaning, if you've got 5 products that you're working on plus your property management software, you connect them all at once, and you're done. I mean, you may have to do maintenance every once in a while, like if something had changed on your property management software, or if you change your business model, if you do different things, you make maintenance changes, but it's not as big of a change once you've done it once. So it's really more of a initial step, and once you go through that initial step, you're good to go. Um, However, I would also say we're also very one of the very few systems that offer two-way data exchange. Like some other
Uh-huh.
systems would offer data out, and that is they call that API, but that's really not an API. An API should be a two-way data exchange where you can take data out of your system and you can put data back into your system. And
Yeah.
if you can't do that, you can't really call it API. But that's again,
True. Yeah, that makes sense.
view at this point. I have seen some of our customers though do some awesome things with the API connections, and those APIs might have where they take information out of Propertyware, they go do something else with it, and then go back and feed it back into Propertyware to be able to have a one system of truth, which is Propertyware for them. And at the end of the day, you would want to connect everything you're working on with your property management software so you're not having to enter anything manual.
So one of the challenges with APIs is that if you've got two pieces of software that are communicating, and if either one of them makes changes, it can break that connection, like something can happen. So that's why it's, I think, really important for the different vendors and property management software to create relationships where somebody's maintaining this. For example,
Right.
like if Tenant Turner was working with Propertyware, or if Property Meld was working with Propertyware, if somebody, one of these vendors that a lot of people are really enjoying, if they're helping to maintain that connection, then it's not, you don't, the business owner doesn't have to keep that working
Right.
and make sure that it stays working.
It's also fair, and I'm gonna
Okay.
and we have a list of companies that we're actually working with to be able to have direct integrations with. You've mentioned Property Melt, for example. That's one of our success
Mm-hmm.
stories with the API. We have a full integrations with them. They'll tell you the same thing as well. The beauty about that is somebody could do the maintenance within Property Meld, and then they can make the payment out of their Propertyware system with ease, without any complications. It also allows you to do back and forth between the two systems. So if you have a work order that came in from a tenant, you can feed it into Property Meld and vice versa as well. And having that we have the API, that's what allowed us to be able to do that. Now, there is a list of companies that we're going through to be able to do direct integration with. I know I think Renters Inc. is one of the people that here that they're putting in chats. We've been working with them on a direct integration with API. I think they're almost there. They're about 95% there to it. And to me, it's all about providing opportunities for our PMCs to be able to take advantage of what the technology could do for them. And that's what we're embarking upon. That's what we're going to do. And if you stay tuned, you're going to get a lot of great news about us connecting with a lot of different vendors that does different things for our PMCs. And the idea is, again, to your point, we maintain the connection so the PMC doesn't have to. But if they wanted to go elsewhere, like for example, if somebody want to go to a different maintenance provider and Property Meld is not what they want to use, they can still use the API to be able to make the exact same connection that Property Meld has made with Propertyware if they have an access to the API.
Yeah, makes sense. So I love the idea of direct integrations. I love the idea of having an open API. I love the idea of you helping them to systemize their business internally, leveraging your software.
Mm-hmm.
These are all powerful tools for them to do. I mean, one of the main things you had mentioned this at the beginning is to lower expenses, and all of these things are going to lower the level of communication, which lessens the amount of time and man hours and manual stuff that has to happen. And that's the biggest expense in property management is staff. It's people, it's those resources. And that allows them greater leverage so that they can get more done without having to throw money at bodies constantly in order to get everything done. So property
Absolutely.
management is not a cheap business to run for a lot of people. And so margins matter quite a bit.
Though, Jason, I do want to say something here that is really, it was quite interesting to me once I came on to work for Propertyware, because I went out and talked to a lot of clients. And again, I'm an operator, so like I understand what people are going through. And I remember when I ran my own company, it was really more throwing bodies at it all the time, right? But the difference though in today's world that is very different than when I ran my own company is today you have options for technologies that could fulfill those tasks that people were doing for you before. Back when I ran my own company, those options were not even available. So for example, if you recall back in the day when we were doing inspections on pen and paper or via pen and paper, I mean, everybody would take a piece of paper and a list of items or questions, and you just fill them out while you're going through the property doing inspection. I mean, today you do most of your inspections via mobile technology on a mobile devices and with mobile templates. And the beauty about that is that saved you the ability or the need to have someone that is actually sitting down and writing down information on a piece of paper, and they're transcribing them back into your property management software. If you have the integration correctly, you go from mobile inspection tool to the inspection report directly into your property management. And like we're working on something that we're just actually going to roll out here at the tomorrow, which is enhancements for our what we call evaluation module.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows people to be able to do multiple inspections and then match them column by column for every time you've done inspections. So think of when you go out and you do move-in inspection and you do mid-year inspection and you do a move-out inspection, and then you're seeing all of those inspections at the same in front of you, matched line item by line item. So you know what the kitchen looked like when you did the move-in, you know what the kitchen looked like when you did a mid-year inspection, and you absolutely know what the kitchen looks like when somebody moved out. And if you can show some damages that the tenant have caused that home, there is never a question anymore about, who caused it, because you have such a access to data and information that is beyond anyone's ability to be able to dispute it in court. So, and that again, that's the beauty about the technology and the use of technology in today's market compared to what was before.
Yeah. Well, technology certainly is changing quite a bit. I think here in the US, we're at the forefront of what's happening technologically in property management, even if
Correct.
we are maybe behind other countries in terms of how well developed or how familiar people are with property management. And it's exciting to see what you guys are doing. So before we wrap this up, is there anything else anybody should know about Propertyware, and how can they get in touch with you guys?
So I appreciate that. What I would like to do though is I do want to talk a little bit about the industry in general, because I want to I want to take this platform as a way for us to be able to educate and train. I mean, I do believe that our industry, and to your point earlier, some other countries have this property management business defined a little bit better, and it's a little bit more professional. Professional, maybe it's not the right word to use, a little bit more integrated within day in and day out lives of people. So it's looked at very differently.
There's probably two things, maybe just more legislation surrounding it,
Correct.
and maybe just more awareness in those markets.
Awareness is really a good word. Thank you. Yes. Awareness is very good. But the reason why I mentioned that is I truly believe that our industry has been under attack this year, and is probably going to be continuing on going under attack from almost everywhere. Whether it's states that they're changing the rules, whether it's businesses that they're changing the rules, whether it's somebody else is changing the rules. And the problem with it is, I think we're so defragmented to the point that we lost the ability to stand up for ourselves as an industry. That I can give you of states changing the rules on the fly and making it miserable for our PMCs to be able to operate. Not to single them out, but I'm going to make an example of the state of New York. They just rolled out a brand new law about the tenant protection law. That's what they call it. The effect of those things that they put into that law.
The tenants from the big bad evil landlords.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So now part of it, for example, you can't charge more than $20 for application fee. You can't even call it an application fee. You have to call it something else. If the customer or if the tenant brings you a copy of an old credit report, you typically have to accept it and not charge them anything if you're going to go screen them through your ways. So, I mean, you can imagine the complexity that this is putting on our PMCs in the state of New York. And they're not the only state. I know of some other states that they're changing things, changing rules. So the reason why I say all of this is I do have an ask for all of us as property managers. And the ask is, let's really get together. Let's support the organizations that support us. I don't want to make this a pitch for any specific organizations that are very well known in our industry. There are usually a couple, two or three, but let's support them to be able to have a voice, so they can stand on our behalf against some of these things that is happening to our industry. And let's really truly do a good job making sure that we're providing the best customer experience, the best customer service that we can provide, because that is the only savior for us to where the public is going to realize that we have value, and what we do has value, and they're going to continue on working with us, and our business is going to continue to grow. So that's as far as the industry. I really wanted to make sure that I put that plug in there. You asked me about Propertyware. I think
Well,
we've talked.
to touch on that, I want to agree with you on that. And I think as property management is really in its infancy, I think, here in the US in terms of awareness and perception. And so every property management business owner is either an advocate for the industry or they're hurting the industry.
Correct.
And so we all need to be advocates for the industry, and we also need to educate. We need to educate because I think if a lot of these laws wouldn't exist, or they would be very different if property managers had input, because they know what works in the real world. They know what needs to happen. They do want to protect the interests of the tenant and the owner. And when things get skewed, when the pendulum swings all the way away from the owner's interest or the landlord's interest just towards what serves the needs and interests of the tenants, eventually it's not really going to end up serving the needs of the tenants.
Absolutely.
It creates some sort of imbalance that is going to hurt tenants in the long run. And that's generally just always going to be true when something isn't right or isn't fair or it isn't just.
I totally agree 100%, and I think you hit the nail on its head with the education. I do also feel that we should educate everybody that we come across with, whether it's our tenants, whether it's our owners, whether it's somebody else that we're dealing with, our vendors. I mean, one thing that I was very advocate for when I ran either of my company or other companies is the fact that you have to have an onboarding experience for everybody you're dealing with. An onboarding experience for your tenant, an onboarding experience for your owner, an onboarding experience for your vendor. And guess what? Also an onboarding experience for the HOAs that you're dealing with, an onboarding experience for the politicians that is responsible for your area as well. Because if you don't educate all of those people on what we do and how we do it well, the results are not going to be something you're going to like. I mean, to your point, Jason, I think if the property managers were involved in some of these laws that they were written, I'm sure they would have been written differently. And it's not because we don't want to protect the public. We actually have the utmost respect for the public, but we know what works and we know what works well. If the idea is to make sure that a tenant has the opportunity to not being overly charged for a particular application fee or something like that, you could have written that in as a rule a little bit differently than just making it where it's mandated and it's one fee, and you're minimizing the ability for somebody to be able to do the right screening for their tenant and put in the right people in place. Anyway, I mean, that was just my.
Even in contracts and everything else, we can
absolutely
add a little bit of educative language to explain
Yes.
the why behind things.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
100%.
like that spoonful of sugar that Mary Poppins says makes the medicine go down. Like there needs to be a little bit of education, added to some of this stuff rather than just throwing out, this is how we're going to do it, and you have to just take it. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Now you did ask me about Propertyware, so I do want to say a couple of things here. That it's definitely it is a system that I'd like people to take a look into as an opportunity for them to understand what the system could do for them. What are we doing as far as these processes, these automations, the opportunities for the two-way API for them to be able to connect their system to everything else that they're working on, the ability to understand that we understand that people have to have options, and we're supporting that, and we're going to go with it. And I just want people to take a look at what we've got to offer, and if it's fitting to what they need and what their business model is, fantastic, we can work together. If it's not, it's no big deal. We'll continue on staying, part of the same industry, and we'll support each other. But I do feel that people are missing quite a lot by not checking out what the opportunities look like and what the options are with Propertyware. And as far as connecting with us, what I would recommend, if people go on to our website, propertyware.com, we've just finalized a new experience for what I would call what I'm going to call here the free trial, where you can go in, log in, take a look at a little bit of the system, figure out what's going on. You're certainly not going to be able to do every single thing in the system. Like, I'm not going to allow you to be able to take a payment in the system or right. Put a tenant in there and kind of have them pay you through it. But the beauty of that is at least it gives you an insider look of what we have available to you. And then I would also invite you to have a conversation with our sales staff to really truly understand what we have to offer and then go through a demo. If it works, great. If it doesn't, no big deal.
So I want to point this out because I'm an advocate for the industry. I'm not a property manager. I want to see the industry shift towards more openness, more freedom. I love what you're
Mhm.
saying. We've had other property management software on in the past, and the general message of one of the big players out there, who I won't mention by name, was just, we're going to just create everything internally. We're going to just try and give our customers everything that they need, rather than giving them what they really are asking for. And the general feedback I hear from everybody is they want freedom. They want freaking freedom to be able to make choices, to make the best choices for the business, to choose the best tools and vendors. They want that. They want freedom. And entrepreneurs, that's why we are doing what we are doing. We don't give up the 9-to-5 job so that we can work, even more hours a lot of times initially, and have a lot more stress and a lot more pain for just because we're crazy. We do it because we want more freedom. We want to be choosing what we're doing. And what you're saying, I think, is in alignment with entrepreneurism. It's in alignment with the entrepreneurs that are running these property management businesses. They want the freedom to be able to choose the vendors, choose the third-party tools that they're going to be using, and they want that stuff to work with their property management software. So I appreciate that is a focus of what Propertyware is doing. So I wanted to point that out because I think it's important to highlight those in the industry that are doing that. I see you guys doing it. I see Rent Manager doing that, the open API thing. One thing I've also always appreciated about Propertyware, since we started doing websites at DoorGrow, back in the day, I mean, the very first websites I did were websites for Propertyware
Mhm.
clients, customers, and
Yes.
you've always had that really good integration for the widget. You were
Yeah.
the first to have like a JavaScript widget. It would populate the data. It wasn't like just a cheesy iframe thing that we were putting into the page, and that's always been nice. It's always been nice to have that in it. That reduced double data entry where
Right.
people were putting in their properties into their websites and then doing that, like just back in the day. We've come a long way since that. Like everybody has now. They're using tools like maybe Tenant Turner or
Yeah.
Showmojo or
Yeah.
Rently and some of these sort of integrations. But yeah, I've always appreciated those aspects of Propertyware. So, question: most people have a property management software. I would imagine
Yes.
most people listening to this show
Yes.
are not just startups that are like, which software should I pick? So say they're using Appfolio, they're using Buildium, they're using Rent Manager, they're using Rent Tech Direct, they're using something already.
Hmm.
What would you say as far as switching? Because we mentioned already, it's painful usually to switch.
Yes.
How do you guys help? How do you help facilitate this? If you're going to get customers on, they're going to have to make the switch. And right now, they're probably not even listening because they're like, "There's no way I can't switch. Like I'm married, and I'm married for eternity." So I'm going to give you an opportunity to help them break up that marriage if it's dysfunctional. So
Yes. So I am so appreciative of you bringing this on as well. I do want to go back though. Freedom is it. I love that. I'm actually going to use it because and you are correct in making sure that you highlight the fact that it's all about freedom. Yes, we do have offerings. Yes, we do have products. But at the same token, I am personally a believer in property where we're believing that we have to provide options for people. You pick whatever makes sense for you as a property management company. If you have a different vendor that is offering something that is more unique to your business model and you like to use that versus using something that we have, great, go for it. Now, as far as the implementation, and obviously you can use the API two-way data exchange to be able to connect them so you don't have to double entry anything. But the implementation, this is such an important piece. When you talk to technologists and you talk to them about implementation, they just don't realize the amount of hassles that a PMC will have to go through when they're jumping from one system to another system. And to them, it's more of like a 1 + 1 = 2. So once I came in to Propertyware, the first thing that I had to tackle was our implementation. And what we did with it is a couple of folds. One, we broke it down to where we provide now tools for ability to be able to have clean data that gets into your system. Having clean data is half the battle for your implementation, because if you have good clean data coming into your system, it makes your life so much easier to be able to operate. And what we found A lot of PMCs may not have realized some of the I'm going to use the word garbage that they may have had in their systems.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go through our checks, we come back to our PMCs and we say, you told us you manage 200, 300, 1,000 doors, but when we're looking at your data here, we're seeing 1,033. So what's going on with those additional 33 units? Are they truly for rent? Are they truly something you don't use? Are they, what's kind of going on with them? And they're coming back saying, oh, you know what, you're right. Those are people that we lost 2 years ago, and the person who was working on the system never deactivated the units, right?
Okay.
So having good data is half the battle. Second, is the partnership between the PMCs as well as a good implementation team that allows them to kind of go through the experience one step at a time. So what that means, when they're coming into us to be able to work with Propertyware, they're going to be assigned a particular team with one project manager who is driving the entire implementation from A to Z. They have calls, they have specific asks, there is a specific journey that they're going through step by step. Data is usually number one issue that we all come across. Number two would be all your accounting setups. Number three would be all your process setups. And then number four would be more of your training and your customization. And then number five, kind of bringing it all together with KPIs and reports and dashboards. Now, after you've done all of this implementation, then you're also going to get the training team to kind of come in and do full training with you for all these processes. And that training is part of the implementation, so it's not something specific that you got to pay for. And it also allows you to be able to customize to what your business model needs. Meaning, let's say you have specific way of doing move-ins. That trainer is going to learn that from you before they come out to train you and your staff. And when they come out to train you and your staff, they're training you on the system to the best business model, to the best business process that you told them you want to do for that move-in. So they're not going to tell you Propertyware does it this way. They're going to say, this is how you told me you want to do move-ins, and this is how you could do the same thing in Propertyware for the best of your ability, for the best of all the results, whether it's for you or for us. Last but not least, what I would also mention is the fact that we provide our PMCs timelines for their integration. So we point it out. We basically say you have, I think the timeline is about 90 days for you to be able to be integrated. You're not paying for the system during those 90 days until you're fully integrated. Once you are fully integrated, then you start paying for it. So that allows us to both be on the same footing, saying, we're going to work with you to be able to get you implemented because you're not paying us, so we're not making any money. And at the same token, it's in our best interest to help you through this process so we can get you to that finalized implementation piece so you can start using your system. Now, what we've seen is a huge reduction in the days of implementing or implementation for Propertyware. In particular, we've also seen a very high number of what I would say happy customers that they came on our new plan for implementation. We've also seen a lot less issues with data when data comes in through the system, and we're finding a lot of ahas from our clients, similar to what I described to you, saying, hey, I didn't know that I had 1,033 units. I thought I was only managing 1,000, so now I got to deal with those 33 units. Or I didn't know that I could do move-ins this way or move-outs that way, or do a process of secure deposit refunds this way to be able to make it easier for me and more streamlined. So it's less touches, less communications, less points of friction between the teams, and then obviously what gives you the best results at the end of the day. So we've seen a very good results from our new approach with the implementation.
So if people are a little frustrated with their existing property management software, it sounds like you guys have made a lot of changes.
Yes,
I love the API stuff you've been talking about, direct integrations. It's probably worth them to take a new, fresh look at
Absolutely.
Propertyware.
Yes. If you looked at it before, I do invite you to take a look at it again. I promise you, we've made a lot of changes. And we are continuing making changes. We do this every day. And when I say changes, it's really more enhancements that really make sense for all of what we talk about. You've mentioned the listing widget, how easy it is. Like one thing we just rolled out recently is the watermarking for photos on listing widget. It's a small thing, but it's an awesome thing to have.
It protects the photos.
It protects the photos, right? Especially if you're in areas where you're hit a lot by scams. Like when I was operating, I'm not singling them out, but just the case of the matter, Florida was one of those states that had a lot of scams.
Yeah.
And by watermarking your photos at ease without a lot of work, it helps you to be able to protect them and making sure that no one is going to steal those photos to be able to scam you or your owners out of the property. So again, we're making enhancements that make sense, and we're making enhancements that it's allowing people to grow either by adding units, increasing their revenue, and or reducing their expenses and increasing their profits.
Cool. Well, Inaas, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing some ideas about Propertyware, letting us kind of know where everything's at with it. Again, people can get in touch by going to propertyware.com
Correct. Yes.
and check you guys out.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Jason. I'm really glad that I got a chance to be on the webcast with you. Thank you very much. You guys do a fine job. Please continue on these webcasts. Please continue educating our PMCs, and just know that
You were complimenting me, but it cut out. Just know what?
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to hear it again? That's what it is, right? No, actually,
No,
no,
I
actually, I was
appreciate
just
that.
no, I
Sometimes
was
it's a
thanking you.
thankless job
No,
doing
I
the
was just
podcast,
thanking
so I
you for
appreciate it.
educating and training for the webcast, and I do really appreciate people like yourselves who are taking the time to be able to educate and train. Just know that we're going to be supporting you all the way. And if there is anything we could do for you and your listeners to be able to support them in their businesses and in their endeavors, please reach out to us. We'd love to be your business partners.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to. That would be great. And it would be cool. Maybe we'll do something to your audience at some point. That would be
Abs-
fun.
Absolutely, we welcome
All
that.
right. Cool. All right. I love sharing the message that we share. So I'll let you go. Inaas, thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So, as everybody knows, I love sharing the message that I think property management, there is a bigger vision for property managers than just getting mired in toilets, tenants, and termites. The property management, I do believe, good property management can change the world. There is a massive ripple effect. There are thousands and thousands of families that can be affected by good management. There's a lot of situations in which families should be underneath good management instead of a crappy landlord situation. I do believe good property management can have a massive ripple effect and can change the world. And hopefully that all of you get a little bit inspired or excited about that. You are having an impact. You get to make a difference. And I'm honored that through you, my listeners, through our clients that we get to work with, that we're able to get that message out and that we're able to have some small impact in the industry and have a ripple effect. So I appreciate Inaas pointing that out. So if you are a property management entrepreneur that wants to add doors, make a difference, then please reach out, and would love to have you maybe work with you and see if you'd be a good fit for the type of client that we're looking to work with and make a difference in this industry. So check us out at DoorGrow.com. Until next time, everybody, to our mutual growth. Bye, everyone.